You see someone on the side of the road, it appears that they are begging. Do I give money or do I not give money? I saw a young man last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago now, sitting outside of a Walgreens. And no, I take that back. He was laying outside of a Walgreens.
Can you please tell me how hot it was?
It was at least 95 degrees. It was one of the hottest days that we've had so far, right? And I get frustrated when people talk about it's hot, and we just broke into July. Like, this is North Texas for those of you who are not here. It's hot here.
So it was 95 degrees, and this gentleman was laying on the
He had
concrete.
his arms stretched out, and he was laying on his arms. So his face wasn't on the pavement, but the rest of his body was on the concrete sidewalk, and it was hot. And you could assume that there was a dependency issue. And I just watched him for a second. He had a lighter in his right hand that he had kind of on his side, and he was spinning it like a fidget spinner. And so that tick kind of said to me that there's a dependency issue there.
Do you think when this gentleman was growing up
That's where I was going with it.
that he thought this is going to be my outcome? This is what I want for my life.
When my wife came back to the car, she said, "Did you give him some money?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." She said, "I saw you get out, and I figured that you did." And I was telling my kids, I can almost guarantee you that at your ages, he never once said to himself, I want to be so strung out. I want to be so dependent on a substance that I would be laying down on the hot cement in front of a store, hoping that someone would show compassion on me. And the reality of that is there was a series of bad decisions. It didn't even necessarily have to be one decision. And if I go back to it, I had already determined that I was going to give him some money. And before I did, when I walked up to him, I said, "My man, what has you out here like this?" And at this point, he was already sitting up. A young lady had just, before I got out of the car, walked by and gave him a bottle of water. So now he's sitting up with his back against the wall, and he's sipping the water, and he's kind of focused ahead of him. So I get out of the car, and I have this money in my hand that I'm going to give to him. And I said, "Man, what has you out here like this?" No response. Didn't even acknowledge me standing there. He continued to look forward with the bottle of water. And I'm sitting there for a second, and I'm looking at him. And to be honest with you, my first response internally was like, "Say, man, you hear me talking to you?" But I believe the Spirit of God was like, "No, that ain't it. That ain't the way that you go to." So I'm like, I had the money in my hand. I opened my hand so he could see the money, and I'm handing it to him. He reached up and grabbed the money, and he put it in his pocket. He still hasn't said anything, still even hasn't acknowledged me standing there, and I haven't said anything else. But I'm thinking like, bro, you didn't say thank you or anything, just, and as I'm sitting there, I'm like, wow. But because I'm petty, Abercrombie and Fitch, I turned, and as I'm walking back to the car, I said, "You're welcome." And then as I'm like, that was so unnecessary. Like, was it about his response to your giving, or was it about you giving? Right. And so I had to check myself on what were my real motives for wanting to help. Was it so that uh I could feel better about myself or whatever, or were my intentions genuine just to help? And that's how it came about. As I told my children, I don't think that when he was your age, he said to himself, I want to be strung out and laying on a hot cement in front of a store. there was a series of decisions that led to this place. And so, all of that to say, sometimes when we ask people questions, we have to really be willing to sit with them. Because I started thinking when I asked them, what has you out here like this?
That is not a 1 minute answer.
Was I really prepared for the answer? Was I
Am I
going
gonna sit
to
down with him?
sit down with him and
And
allow him to
no,
unpack that? Or did I really just want some quick answers so I could go about
my day.
my day with my family, right? The picnic that we were about
Yeah.
to go to. Is that, you know what I mean? So, and then we do it all the time.
Yes.
Hey, Scott, what's up, man? How you doing?
Fine.
And that's what I'm hoping you say. I'm good.
Yeah, because if I say, man, I really need to talk. Hey, man, I really got some other stuff I need to take care of. Can we talk about this another time? Or is it really that serious?
Or from what I get all the time, hey, MJ, let me holler at you, man. And you're like, wow. Then you really have to be there to hear how are you doing? How are you feeling? You know what I mean? And it isn't this dismissive, like, okay, you good, whatever. Go
I'm
on
out.
about your business.